Hey, good morning, guys. This is Chris, and I am hopefully coming live from my hotel room. And this is just before I'm going to head out to the airport. I got a little bit of time left, so I thought I would do a quick live video for you. I know I promised you some live videos like during the event the other day, but honestly, the noise was pretty loud, and there was no Wi-Fi available, and the cellular connection actually inside the building tended to be a little flaky at times, and so I decided not to bother with it. And that's unfortunate because I really wanted to do some interviews with some of the guys, especially on the team. There's a lot of good, interesting people that could provide a lot of value too at the event, but it was just the logistics just really weren't my favor, I don't think. So, but I did want to do a quick wrap up before I kind of get my bags packed up and head out to the airport this morning. And if you don't know, Wednesday, which was 2 days ago actually, Microsoft held the Microsoft Edge Web Summit, which is a one-day event where the Edge team, which is the browser on Windows, um, essentially has some announcements and goes over like new releases, some new technology stuff, and sometimes just some interesting things that they're up to and doing. And so what I thought I'd do is just run through a few of those highlights. I'm going to go through my notes. I got nothing really planned structurally here, so I'm just really literally going to go through my notes and point out some highlights. Now, the first couple of things to note is that Edge is now 2 years old, so Internet Explorer has been supplanted and replaced for 2 years now. In fact, Internet Explorer honestly is not even supported by Microsoft anymore, except on Windows 7. And honestly, it's just there because companies haven't either updated their operating system or they don't update their line of business apps, and that's why it still exists. Next, um, they say they're on 330 million active devices. That means that there are about 330 million Microsoft Edge devices is really what that amounts to, in my opinion, because that's where Edge runs, is on Windows 10. So that's a number. Put that in perspective, there are about 5 billion Android devices out there. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're consumer devices, but a little over 2.5 billion devices that run Chrome um, on Android right now. So 330 million is actually pretty small in comparison. That right now, if you actually look at your logs, especially for consumer or external traffic on your site, you should see somewhere between 70 to even up to 95% being nothing but mobile handsets hitting your properties these days. Um, they really emphasize a lot on getting feedback from people who use Edge, especially if you're frustrated with something or you find something that's a legitimate bug. Um, Now, a lot of things that are considered bugs actually aren't bugs. It's just that other browsers get more credit for things, and this is me speaking. But what they do is they implement things before they're actually a specification, and people confuse implementation with being a specification, and that's not always true either. But they provided several ways to provide feedback. I do plan on producing some video and some other content around ways to submit bugs and feedback to the team, and they are very interested in hearing about those kind of things and trying to fix, because what they want to do is make sure that they build a browser that works everywhere for everyone, and that all sites load there. And what hearing from you is a big way to do that. Um, let's see. The browser is always being updated. Basically, major releases are every 6 months with the operating system, but if you're like me on Insider's build, you get updated almost every week with stuff, and that maybe little micro increments and stuff like that. Security patches are a different story. Those are going to be updated rather frequently. I think they said they had 82 updates in the 2 years, and I think it was like every 13.3 days is what Charles said. So anyway, um, you can finally edit favorites, at least the URLs, which is good. You can drag and drop those favorites. There's been a lot of just frustration with that by some people. I'm actually using favorites a whole lot more than I used to, and I really actually appreciated that. Um, let's see. Edge is always getting faster. In fact, they've scored 2.5 times faster than they did originally. on some of the one of the benchmarks there, which is really good. And it's just because they're able to clean up the code continuously, and they do their own diagnostics and stuff, and they're always improving the performance of stuff. Um, they You can always see what they're working on status.microsoftedge.com. In fact, if you go to microsoftedge.com, there's actually a lot of resources there, which is another video I'm planning. And then Sonar. Sonar is a linting tool. Basically, it's something you can integrate into your continuous build if you want. It's a node module, and what it'll do is basically tell you things that are wrong with your site. Now, right now they've got an initial set of rules that they're going to audit against you, and the nice thing is you can configure if those rules are executed against your site, or how they're executed, the actual format the information is presented to you. There's lots of good things with that. Got lots of plans with Sonar myself, so you can definitely know that you're going to hear some things about me from that. Another big announcement that I was really happy with is that they are collaborating with Mozilla. That's the Firefox team. And Mozilla has actually renamed their documentation site from Mozilla Documentation something or whatever it was, but it just MDM Web Docs. And these are something I go to regularly to do research on specifications and just how to do things, to be honest with you. This is a fantastic source of written documentation on web APIs, whether it's HTML APIs, JavaScript, CSS. It's all covered there. The problem is sometimes it's not necessarily right. Sometimes it was written early in the spec and it hasn't been updated yet. The Edge team has made 75,000 wiki edits, because this is an open wiki, so you could actually sign in like you see over there on the right. It's actually, I think, on GitHub, and you can also update the content. And feel free to do that, so you're going to make the web a better place for us developers by doing so. Now, one of the big things that they went over that I've not really done anything with is Bash on Windows. And if you're not familiar with this, about 18 months ago, Microsoft at Build announced that they were going to support Bash on Windows. I did write a blog post about this back then, and I wasn't really sure what to make of it because I don't know what I'm missing, I guess, because I don't really do that, but I do know I have frustration when I go read tutorials on how to do things, especially in Node, and they don't quite work because the Node modules or the syntax they're showing me is actually for Bash. And honestly, I don't know a lot about Bash, so this is one of the things I'm going to have to learn about. But it's known as the Windows subsystem for Linux. You're actually running an instance of Linux on your machine. And the way you actually do this is go to the Windows store. And honestly, if you just type in Bash, I'll just walk you through what you're going to see. You can see that you can run Linux on Windows. And there are 3 current instances of Linux that you can download: Ubuntu, and then OpenSUSE, and then SUSE Linux for Enterprise Server. And then, of course, there's always like 100 million versions of Linux. So what else do you support? Well, according to the people I talked to, there are more versions of Linux that are in the pipeline that will be coming soon. If your favorite flavor of Linux is not there yet, I would start pinging the team that manages that and put some pressure on them, and hopefully you'll see your favorite version there soon. Now, I want to have to go over this whole thing in the near future. I've got to get my head wrapped around a little bit, but I did hang out with some of the guys on the team yesterday and had some really interesting conversations with them. It's something that actually now is really fascinating to me. So anyway, we'll talk about that in other content. Let's move along. What else? Let's see. Oh, okay, so one of the big announcements, and well, if you haven't picked up on it, Microsoft, especially the Edge team in particular, is really excited about progressive web apps. They did talk a lot about progressive web apps. The one thing I was very disappointed is they're not shipping next month, which, by the way, the Fall Creators Edition will be available on October 17th, and that's when all the stuff that I've been playing with and almost suffering through at times because of bugs with the beta stuff is going to be available to the general public. What's not going to be available to the general public is service workers, which is frustrating, but I totally get it. Basically, they've been working on service workers. This is not an easy implementation. They put about 2 years worth of engineering resources into service workers, and basically before they release something major like that, they're going to put it out there in kind of a test form. And the way browsers do that these days is behind the about flags. And basically, if you go to about:/flags, you'll see a set of options. And you can do this in every browser, and you can turn things on. And if we scroll down to the standards preview section down here, you can enable service workers. You will have to reboot your computer, and this is only available today on the Windows Insider build, but on October 17th, it'll be available to the general public. So if you're not on the Insider's build, but your machine gets updated then you can start playing with it. Now, what I thought I'd do is just do a super quick, which is not what I wanted to do there, super quick, just quick run through of what they've got in the developer tools right now. And that's another thing, developer tools are really being rewritten. What's there right now, just don't really make assumptions about the team based on the developer tools today. They're going to be changing a lot over the next year. Again, another great place to provide them feedback. All right, now if you go to the debugger in the developer tools, there is now a service workers node on the tree over here. And you can see the service workers and what domain that the service worker is hosted under. And over here you will see some information about the service worker. It looks very similar to some of the information you get in Chrome right now. It's not quite as sophisticated. I've got to talk about how service workers work in Edge. I've got all kinds of cool, really deep information that I can provide. Probably really going to go into it in my courses and stuff like that. Now, I haven't played with a lot of this stuff yet, but to actually debug the service worker, and this is because the service workers in Edge work a little bit different than they do in Chrome, and it's actually a good thing, which I will be going over other things. So basically, they're two separate processes, not just separate threads, they're separate processes, which is actually a really interesting and cool thing. So here we've got a new instance of the service worker, and or to be able to debug the service worker. Now, I was having some issues with this, and I'm still having some issues with this. So this is some of the stuff I'm trying to sort of work through at the moment. I'm just going to reload my page here and see if that helps. I was able to get the service worker code up to actually debug yesterday. I'm not seeing it. I've been, like everybody else, I'm having problems with the Edge debuggers right now. So anyway, but here's where you would actually debug the code, and I was able to do this the other night. So that's a thing. All right, let's just go back here. I'm going to go back through this because I only got a couple minutes before I've got to get ready, and I'm sure you're getting bored of listening to me, maybe. They went over the BrowserStack partnership a little more, and I got some videos on that from earlier in the year, I think back in April, and I think they now said it build, and that is really cool. They went over a lot about security and safety, just how they do that. I won't go into that here because that gets really deep, but there are a lot of things that they do about that. They spent a lot of time on progressive web apps. I had a lot of hallway conversations, obviously, with them, and there was also some Googlers up here too, about a half dozen from the Chrome team that I got to have some good conversations with about progressive web apps and service workers and stuff like that. So it's going to add a lot of value to some things that I'm working on. Of course, they're obviously going to be putting progressive web apps in the App Store. They did not go into details about what I would consider add to home screen, because it would be your add to start menu, let's say. They're not totally sure what that's going to look like just yet, which is why they really haven't told me anything. That's the gist of it. They're kind of working through some thoughts and ideas on implementing that. But I'm going to go over in more detail about the plans on progressive web apps on Windows as it stands today, as far as what I can say publicly, I guess. Anyway, service workers. If you're not familiar, it seems like the next big drop in service workers, side note, might be geofencing. There seems to be some discussion on that. as far as interest, I don't know how far along the specification is gone. Chakra Core was talked about a lot. Chakra Core is pretty cool. Basically, it's like V8, but it is the JavaScript engine in Edge, and it's been available and open sourced on GitHub for a while now. And there's actually a flavor of Node that runs on it, and there's a lot of advantages from using Chakra Core there. And Chakra Core actually runs things like Cosmos DB, which is a new database in Azure. They talked a lot about TypeScript improvements. Hopefully I'll be going over those soon. I mentioned Sonar. They had a whole session on web payments, which are fascinating. Got a content planned on that too. That's going to be awesome. It's already being supported by 3 browsers and in the works and others. They spent a lot of time on accessibility, very important topic that is often overlooked, and I am super guilty about that. But if you do follow accessibility, you will build great user experiences. Todd Reichstaff and Nolan Lawson went over a lot of performance things that you need to be cognizant of. Essentially, Todd went over from a browser perspective, and Nolan went over from a coding perspective, like from our side, and he went over like 3 things that you might be needing to actually do yourself. And obviously, I'm going to go over this stuff. I mean, it's web performance. It's like my thing. So that's a quick summary of the public things that they talked about. We did spend a whole day yesterday, a small group of us, with representatives from the Edge team, and just having some candid discussions. It was a very, really good experience. And I love hanging out, especially with the browser guys, because they built the platform I build on, which allows me to understand how to build websites better. So I do encourage you to go back on Channel 9 and watch some of the videos. If you see this, it's summit.microsoftedge.com. That'll give you the full agenda. And if you click I think this will take us straight over to the Channel 9 link. There we go. And the videos are all up here. You can go back and watch each one of the videos and see what happened. So hopefully this is helpful to you. And again, like and share it with your friends. I'm going to make it a post here in a few minutes. And good luck for have a good weekend, I guess. And I got to get myself ready to go downstairs and catch the train so I can head out to the airport. All right, have a good one, guys. I appreciate your time.